Hello, my name is Marilyn Ham. As a member of the Londonderry Historical Society, I'd like to welcome you as we travel along the roads of Londonderry. We'll take you up and down different routes that you may use daily, but perhaps you have not known of the significance of some of the familiar sights. With the help of our guide, Mr. Melvin Watts, we will consider much of the same material Londonderry fourth graders have as part of a local history unit. Mr. Watts is a man well suited to our purpose. The Watts family played an important part in the early settling of Londonderry.
The Watts name appears on our earliest document, the request in 1718 to settle the area which became Londonderry. Included are two by the name of Watts, or Watt, W-A-T, spelled phonetically, Luke and Samuel. Samuel settled in that part which had previously been granted to Haverhill, Massachusetts, next to what became Londonderry. In 1752, land was deeded to Moses Watts, one of the weavers of the renowned Londonderry linen. In 1763, he was surveyor of highways. In 1768, Moses Watts was constable in the west parish of the town. In 1792, Moses Watts, the last of the name to be a weaver, deeded his home to Captain James Watts, husbandman. It was Captain James Watts who harnessed the water power of the falls on the Big Watts Brook to run his 3 mills. One to grind grain, one to saw lumber, and the third to press cider. The belts could be run from a single undershot wheel in the middle of the brook to run the desired mill. The homestead of his son Joshua, also a miller, stood on the bank overlooking the mill pond.
Mr. Watts himself is a former president of the Sons of the American Revolution and has been honored by the Daughters of Colonial Wars and received the Catherine Prentice Murphy Collector's Award for his contribution to the preservation of local history. Mr. Watts is a distinguished co-editor of the 2nd volume of the History of Londonderry, and as curator emeritus of the Currier Gallery of Art in Manchester, his professional expertise ensures us of an enjoyable and educational experience.
Nature has been and remains one of the major attractions of Londonderry. Stone, water, earth, distinctive plants and animals, and even the sky are a native resource. They may be experienced singly or in combination with one another to catch and hold our interest through their beauty of sight and sound. There is evidence all around us of a natural beauty which has changed constantly since the beginning of time. As this planet evolved from a fiery mass to having a bedrock surface, different molten minerals cooled as they were thrust outward into layers and vertical strata, which we find in surface rocks or in cuts drilled deep into the solid crust. There was a time when the sea completely covered Londonderry, when only the rocky hills protruded. With the lowering of the ocean, or the change in the sliding of one of the continental shelves above the other, the sea receded and left a deep alluvial sand. A sand which by the constant action of water has been rolled for years until the facets of each grain has been worn smooth and its surface is round. Such sand gives under pressure, making walking in it difficult. An area along the westerly side of Londonderry has in the past been referred to as the Big Sand, or the Pine Plains. It is in such soil that white pine trees reach their greatest potential. Another extended early period was that of the glaciers. Large sheets of ice descended from the North Pole to cover the area, scooping out depressions which filled with water, creating lakes and ponds. One such pond is Scobie's in the northeast section of Londonderry. On the pond's surface float the pads and blossoms of water lilies, the common cow lily and the more showy white water lily. The latter has an enduring sweet fragrance. The water lily, a sun-loving plant, closes into a tight bud when the sun does not shine. Frogs of many species are found both in and out of the water, but always near the moisture. One of these is the bullfrog. He sits unmoving, waiting for insects to fly by, which he can catch on the end of his tongue. Sometimes it takes encouragement to prompt him to leap with his strong hind legs and swim off among the reeds and pads. Fish of various kinds often break the surface of a pond as they jump for insects, which hover just above its surface. In the spring, if you move slowly and peer into the shallow water near the edge, you may see fish such as this perch fanning a section of the pond's bottom with its fins. With this motion, it creates a nest in which to lay its eggs and raise its young. Through the centuries, Scobie's Pond has remained a natural wonderland. Extending from east to west along the northern part of Londonderry is the Great Canada Swamp. The word Canada, in this case, means northern. What was once a lake or a series of ponds became a quaking bog and eventually a swamp as it remains today. Through this swamp flows the Little Cohos Brook, also called the Big Meadow Brook. From the swamp, the Little Cohos Brook tumbles through increasingly high banks toward the Merrimack River. On either side rises the sand of the Pine Plains. From beneath this sand bubble springs of fresh water, which feed the stream. In the southern part of town, one of the best trout fishing streams is Black Brook. Beaver Brook, the largest stream in town, forms its southeast boundary. There are many flowering water plants growing along these streams. In summer, you might discover the yellow meadow lily or the blue flag iris, the white water arum, or one of the viburnums. A rare sight is the tall green blossom of the Indian poke. In Londonderry, the Indian poke generally lives out its lifespan without blooming. In the late summer,